Laura Bennett stood alone in the warm glow of the Westchester living room, the Christmas tree shimmering behind her, its lights reflecting in the window like tiny stars trapped in the glass. Outside, snow drifted softly across the driveway where Michael's black Mercedes had sped away just hours earlier. She held her iPhone with both hands, fingers trembling slightly, staring at the message he'd sent just 3 minutes ago. Emergency meeting in Los Angeles. I'll call the kids later. That was all. No apology. No explanation. No hint of regret about missing the night their children treasured most. Her son, 8-year-old Aiden, was still downstairs, sitting on the couch wearing a red sweater Laura knitted last December. He kept glancing toward the staircase as if expecting the thud of boots, the smell of Michael's cologne, the booming laughter he always brought home during the holidays back, when he still remembered what holidays meant. Laura forced a smile and crouched beside him. "Dad will call soon," she whispered. But even as she said it, her voice cracked. She stood up, walked back into the kitchen, and leaned against the sink. The scent of gingerbread drifted from the oven. She'd baked Michael's favorite soft ginger cookies with orange zest, something he once said reminded him of his childhood in Michigan. For years, he insisted she keep that tradition alive. But tonight, those cookies sat untouched, cooling on a rack, unnoticed by the man who claimed he valued family over everything. Her phone buzzed again. For one hopeful second, she thought it might be him. But it was the hospital. Her mother's nurse. Another complication. Another reminder that Laura's life had quietly unraveled while Michael's soared. She pressed her palm to her forehead. "Please, not tonight," she whispered. Before she could gather herself, Aiden walked in holding a small, wrapped present. "Mom, should I put Dad's gift under the tree?" His voice was so soft, it nearly broke her. "Yes, sweetheart," she said. "Put it right in front. He'll see it when he comes home." But deep inside, she already knew. Michael had no intention of coming home tonight. Not after the late meetings. Not after the urgent travel. Not after the repeated cancellations and evasive excuses. And especially, not after the message Daniel, the one person she still trusted, sent her last night. "Laura, there's something you need to know about Michael, and it can't wait." She hadn't opened the attachment yet. Not because she didn't want the truth, but because she feared she already knew it. She inhaled slowly, gripping the edge of the counter to steady herself. Christmas music played softly in the background, contrasting painfully with the emptiness settling inside her chest. Aiden called from the living room, "Mom, look, a snowstorm's coming." Laura walked toward the window, her heartbeat rising, unaware that the real storm wasn't outside. It had already begun inside her home. And within the next 24 hours, that storm would tear Michael's perfect life apart. Snow pressed against the windows in soft waves as evening settled over the Bennett house. Laura moved quietly through the living room, adjusting stockings, straightening the garland, doing anything to keep her hands busy. The tree glowed warmly, but the room still felt strangely hollow, like a place waiting for someone who had no intention of arriving. Aiden sat cross-legged on the carpet beside his little sister, Lily, who was only 5. They were arranging their handmade ornaments, lining them up in a crooked circle, as if building their own tiny world where parents never left for emergencies. Every few minutes, Aiden glanced toward the door, pretending not to. Lily kept asking, "Is Daddy coming home after the meeting? He promised he'd tuck us in." Laura knelt beside her children, brushing a curl from Lily's forehead. "We'll still have a wonderful Christmas Eve," she said softly. But even to her own ears, the words carried more hope than certainty. "Let's finish these ornaments. Dad will call when he can." But the truth sat like a stone in her chest. Michael hadn't called. He hadn't even sent a voice memo for the kids, something he used to do without fail. Tonight, silence was his choice. Laura stood and walked into the dining room. The table was set for 4. Polished silverware, linen napkins, the ceramic snowman plates the children loved. She had planned the dinner weeks ago: roast chicken, glazed carrots, mashed potatoes, Michael's favorites. Now only 3 places would be filled. Aiden approached the table, frowning at the empty chair. "Mom, should we wait for Dad to eat?" Laura swallowed. "No, sweetheart. It's already late. Dad, he's very busy tonight." It hurt to say it. It hurt even more to see the acceptance in her son's eyes. Acceptance. A child shouldn't have to learn so young. As they ate, Laura found herself drifting back to the early years. She remembered the first Christmas after they married, when Michael surprised her with a simple wooden ornament carved with their initials. They'd laughed until their sides ached while hanging lights, spilled hot cocoa everywhere, and danced in the living room at midnight. He wasn't rich then. He wasn't distracted. He wasn't cold. Somewhere between ambition and success, the man she loved had vanished. After dinner, the children carried their gifts to the tree. Aidan placed the small package for Michael carefully beneath the lowest branch. "He'll like this," he whispered. "I worked hard on it." Laura bit the inside of her cheek, fighting tears. "He'll be proud of you," she said. She hoped it was still true. Later, she tucked the kids into bed. Lily clutched her stuffed polar bear tightly. "Mommy, what if Daddy forgets it's Christmas?" The question stabbed like a blade. Laura kissed her daughter's forehead. "He won't forget, honey. He's just far away." But as she walked into the hallway and closed the door gently behind her, a sharp wave of sadness washed over her. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, and her breath caught maybe it was Michael. It wasn't. It was Daniel. His message read, "Laura, you need to open the file I sent you. It's important. You deserve to know." She stared at the screen. Her hand trembled. She knew deep inside that whatever was in that file would change everything. But she couldn't bring herself to open it. Not yet. Not on Christmas Eve. The lights dimmed in the living room as the heater hummed. She stood alone, surrounded by decorations meant for a family that was no longer whole. And then the doorbell rang far too late and far too urgently for it to be good news. The doorbell's echo was still fading in Laura's mind when the scene cut sharply, thousands of miles away, into a world that couldn't have been more different from her quiet, snow-covered home. At the Ritz-Carlton in Los Angeles, golden lights dripped from chandeliers like strands of molten glass. Laughter bounced across the marble floors. Guests in designer coats posed beside the giant Christmas tree in the lobby, its ornaments gleaming like small suns. The atmosphere was rich, loud, and intoxicating, everything Michael Bennett claimed he didn't care about anymore. But here he was. He stepped out of the elevator, his shirt open at the collar, jacket slung over his arm, Chloe clinging playfully to his side. She wore a sequined dress that caught every glimmer of light, her perfume trailing behind like a forbidden whisper. In her hand was a flute of champagne, already her second since they'd checked in. "You sure Laura bought the emergency meeting excuse?" Chloe giggled, leaning into him. Michael offered a smug, half-smile. "She always does. She trusts me more than she should." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe she's smarter than you think." Michael didn't answer. For a split second, something flickered across his expression, not guilt, but caution, the instinct of a man who lived a double life too long to relax completely. But then he let it fade and allowed Chloe to pull him toward the bar. The bartender recognized him instantly. "Mr. Bennett, welcome back. Same drink?" Michael's lips twitched. "Route 66 Manhattan. Extra cherry." Chloe rested her chin on his shoulder. "You're practically a regular." Michael chuckled, tapping his credit card, his private one, against the counter. "Meetings bring me here often." But that wasn't true. The only meetings he had tonight were with his ego and the woman who fueled it. Chloe lifted her phone and snapped a selfie of the two of them with the skyline glittering behind them. "Perfect," she whispered, sending it quickly to someone. Michael didn't notice. Upstairs, their suite overlooked Los Angeles like a city made of melted gold. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, and a bottle of champagne waited in a silver bucket beside a tray of chocolate truffles. A luxury Michael had insisted on for the holiday vibe. Chloe walked over to the windows. "This view never gets old." "It better not," he said, loosening his tie. "I paid enough for it." She laughed, but there was a sharp edge to it. "Everything with you has a price, doesn't it?" He didn't like that comment. But before he could respond, a soft knock came at the door. "Room service." A cart rolled in desserts, champagne refills, and a small Tiffany blue package sitting neatly at the top. "For Mr. Bennett," the attendant said politely. Michael froze. Chloe did too. He walked toward it slowly, confusion tightening his jaw. "I didn't order anything from Tiffany." The attendant smiled. "It arrived earlier, sir. Delivered from New York." "New York." "From home." "From Laura." Chloe stepped back, her face paling. Maybe you shouldn't open that. Michael swallowed, his pulse quickening. Why not? Because, she whispered, sometimes the truth shows up dressed as a gift. From Lynchron. He shot her a suspicious look. What does that mean? Chloe glanced at her phone, then at him, then back at the box, as if she already knew what was inside and dreaded the fallout. He reached for the package, hand trembling slightly. Relax, he muttered. It's probably some sentimental thing she made. But his voice didn't match his certainty. The room grew heavy with silence. And just as Michael lifted the lid, Chloe's phone lit up with a message preview that made her visibly flinch. It read, "The story is ready. Are you sure you want to go through with exposing him tonight?" Back in Westchester, long before the Ritz-Carlton lights reflected in Michael's eyes, Laura had sat at her kitchen table with the calm, deliberate patience of a woman holding herself together by the thinnest thread. Snow tapped against the window, the oven hummed softly, and the smell of cooling ginger cookies filled the room. But her hands trembled as she arranged the items inside the Tiffany blue box. She chose each piece with intention. Not to hurt him, not to win him back, but to remind him of the family he had slowly abandoned piece by piece, year by year. The first item she placed inside was the small photo album she had spent 2 nights assembling. Its cover was white leather, embossed with gold stars. Inside, she arranged photographs from every Christmas since their wedding moments that once felt permanent. Here was Michael holding newborn Aiden beside the hospital tree. Here he was lifting Lily onto his shoulders as they hung lights on their first house. Here they were, the 4 of them, bundled up on a snowy day in Central Park, laughing as if the world belonged to them. But as the pages progressed, something changed. Michael's smile stiffened. His gaze drifted away from the camera, toward his phone, toward business calls, toward anything but them. Laura paused, running her thumb along one particular photo. Last year, when Michael arrived late, smelling of a perfume she didn't recognize. She remembered how she dismissed it then, telling herself she was being dramatic. She slipped the album into the box and reached for the second item. An older iPad she had wiped clean, except for one video recorded by the kids just 2 days earlier. In the video, Aiden spoke carefully, trying to sound grown up. "Dad, we miss you. We hope you come home early this year." Lily leaned into the frame, waving the handmade ornament she'd painted for him. "Daddy, look. I made this. Come open presents with us." Laura recorded them while forcing a smile. But once they bounded upstairs, her hands had gone cold. She added the iPad to the box, then exhaled a shaky breath. The third item took her the longest to prepare. A letter. A letter she rewrote 4 times because each version felt too angry, too soft, too direct, too broken. Finally, she settled on plain truth. How lonely she had become. How frightened she felt, raising the children alone in spirit, even when he was technically home. How she no longer recognized the man she married. And how she refused to keep pretending for the sake of his perfect public image. She wrote that she was not asking for anything. Not pity. Not money. Not promises. She only wanted him to see the family he was losing, and the woman he had already lost. When she finished, she folded the letter neatly, slid it into an envelope, and added something Daniel insisted on. A sealed document outlining preliminary protective measures for the children's assets, drafted quietly behind the scenes for months. Not divorce papers. Not yet. But a warning and a shield. Laura hesitated, her fingers resting lightly on the Tiffany box. Christmas Eve was supposed to hold magic, not heartbreak. But she also knew. Magic dies when it's only one person trying to keep it alive. A knock at the door startled her. It was Daniel, holding a manila folder and wearing a look that mixed concern and resolve. "You're doing the right thing," he said gently. She nodded, though she wasn't sure if she believed him. "I just want the truth." Daniel handed her the folder. "Then you need to see this." She froze. "What is it?" Daniel hesitated before answering. "It's something Michael never meant for you to find." And inside that folder was the one piece of evidence that would shatter Laura's last illusion about her husband. Laura stared at the manila folder in Daniel's hands, as if it were ticking. Part of her wanted to snatch it away and rip it open. Another part, a much more fragile part, wanted to run upstairs, crawl into bed beside the kids, and pretend this Christmas was like every other one before the cracks began to show. Daniel stepped inside, brushing snow from his coat. His presence always brought a strange mix of comfort and heaviness. Comfort because he was the only person who truly saw her. Heaviness because he often saw truths she wasn't ready to face. "Let's sit," he said quietly. They moved to the small dining table, the same one where Michael used to spread out his blueprints in the early days when they could barely afford rent. Laura folded her hands in her lap while Daniel opened the folder. Inside were printouts, receipts, itineraries, screenshots, and something that made her chest tighten. A bank transfer slip showing $300,000 moved to an account under the name Chloe Reynolds. Laura felt the blood drain from her face. "That can't be right. He told me that account was for the new project in Palo Alto." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Laura, there is no Palo Alto project." It felt like someone had yanked the floor out from under her. Daniel slid another paper forward. "And this is from his assistant." She said Michael specifically requested no shared statements sent to the house. Laura's throat tightened. "He hid it from me. He's been moving assets quietly. The timing matches periods when you two had fights. It's a classic pre-divorce move." She flinched at the word divorce. She'd thought about it before, yes, but never seriously. Not with the kids. Not with her mother sick. Not when she had no financial control of her own life. Daniel leaned back, watching her with steady eyes. "You need to protect yourself. And the kids." "I don't know how," she whispered, eyes stinging. "I have no access to the accounts anymore. He cut my credit card last month and said it was an error." "Wid." "It wasn't an error," Daniel said firmly. She felt herself shrinking, drowning in humiliation she never admitted to anyone. Michael always dismissed her concerns. He mocked her anxiety, told her she was being dramatic, ungrateful, irrational. "Laura," Daniel said gently, "this isn't your fault." She shook her head. "I should have seen it sooner." "You did," he said. "You've just been alone with the truth for too long." When he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a laptop, his MacBook Pro glowing with a dozen documents already lined up. "I've been preparing for this. Not because I wanted it to happen, but because I saw where things were heading." She blinked. "You've been preparing? For me?" Daniel hesitated, then answered softly. "For you and for the kids." Her breath caught not from romance, but from the shock of being protected after years of being emotionally discarded. "Listen," Daniel continued, shifting into lawyer mode. "We need to gather digital evidence. Have you ever logged into Michael's iCloud?" Laura nodded slowly. "Yes. He once asked me to download photos for a holiday card." "Good," Daniel said. "If he hasn't changed the password, we might access his travel logs, receipts, messages, anything that proves intent." Laura stared at the laptop. "And if he did change the password?" Daniel opened the next file. His assistant sent a backup. She said she was tired of covering for him. "Why would she do that?" Laura asked. "Because Michael crossed a line," Daniel said, sliding his phone toward her. "Listen to this." He hit play. A recording crackled. Then Michael's voice filled the room, sharp, irritated, and cruel. "Laura doesn't do anything. I'm the one who built this life. She's lucky I don't leave now." Laura's heart crumpled. Not because he said it, she'd heard versions of that before, but because he said it so easily. To another woman. As if she meant nothing. Daniel softened. "I'm sorry." She wiped a tear. "No. I need to hear it." But before Daniel could continue, another alert chimed on his phone. He glanced at it and frowned. "What is it?" she asked. Daniel turned the screen toward her. It was a forwarded message from Michael's assistant. "I think he's planning to move more money tonight. Before Christmas, you need to act fast." Laura felt a chill crawl up her spine. Because at that very moment, thousands of miles away, Michael was preparing to make a decision that would put everything Laura loved at risk. Snow tapped steadily against the kitchen window as Laura stared at Daniel's phone. The message glowed like a warning flare in the dark. "He's planning to move more money tonight." Her stomach tightened until she felt almost nauseous. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to breathe through the rising panic. Daniel watched her carefully. "Laura, listen to me. You're not powerless. Not anymore." But she didn't feel powerful. She felt like the floor beneath her life had cracked open, and she was hanging on by her fingertips. "I don't understand," she whispered. Why would he move money now? On Christmas Eve? Daniel opened his laptop and began pulling up documents. Because he thinks you won't notice. Because tonight, you're busy with the kids. And because he's arrogant enough to believe no one is watching. My. Laura pressed a hand to her forehead. Her skin felt cold, her pulse unsteady. He always told me I was overreacting. That I was imagining things. That I was making everything harder than it needed to be. She swallowed tightly. Maybe I wanted to believe him. That's what abusers do, Daniel said gently. They make you doubt yourself until you can't recognize reality. The word abuser startled her. She'd never dared label it. She'd always made excuses. He was stressed, he was overwhelmed, he had a demanding schedule. But the truth settled on her chest like a weight she could no longer push away. Daniel continued typing. We're going to download everything from the backup. If he used his company devices for personal conversations, there will be a trail. Laura nodded weakly and reached for the glass of water on the table. Her fingers shook so much she nearly spilled it. Hey, Daniel said softly, placing his hand gently over hers. You don't have to be strong every minute. But that was exactly what she'd been for years. Strong for the kids. Strong for Michael's public image. Strong for her mother. Strong until her strength had become a mask she couldn't remove. A sudden, sharp pain gripped her stomach. She winced, bending slightly. Daniel straightened. Laura. What's wrong? It's nothing, she said, forcing herself upright. Just stress. One. No, he said firmly. Not nothing, sit. But she shook her head. There's too much to do. Daniel didn't push. Instead, he returned to the laptop. I'm opening the itinerary logs. If he traveled with Chloe before tonight, it'll show. The screen loaded slowly. Laura's heart pounded in her ears as lines of dates, hotel confirmations, and credit card charges appeared. There it was. Los Angeles. Last month. 2 nights at the very same hotel he was staying in tonight. She felt her throat close. Daniel zoomed in. And this New York. 3 weeks ago. Dinner at that rooftop place on Park Avenue. Laura's head dropped. She remembered that night. She had been alone with the kids, helping Aiden finish a school project. Michael said he was at a team meeting. Then another notification popped up. Geotagged photos Chloe had saved to a shared work folder by mistake. One of her leaning against Michael's car. One of her sitting in his office chair, her feet on the desk. And one dated December 10th of her kissing Michael on the cheek in a conference room. Laura pressed her knuckles to her mouth as tears spilled silently down her cheeks. Daniel closed the folder. You don't need to see more. But she did. She needed to face the truth, even if it broke her. Her phone buzzed suddenly. She grabbed it quickly, instinctively, thinking it might be Michael, maybe calling the kids, maybe pretending he cared. But it wasn't him. It was the hospital. Her mother's condition had worsened. She needed to come immediately. Laura felt the room tilt. I can't leave the kids. I'll drive you, Daniel said. And I'll stay with you as long as you need. She grabbed her coat, barely able to think. As they rushed toward the door, snow swirling wildly outside, Laura felt her world collapsing from every direction. Her marriage, her security, her mother's health. And she didn't yet know the worst blow was still coming. Because in Los Angeles, Michael was about to make a choice that would destroy the last piece of trust Laura had left. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and winter air as Laura hurried down the hallway with Daniel at her side. Her mother had been moved to a quieter room, dimly lit, with a small television playing an old holiday movie. The soft glow of the screen made the wrinkles on her mother's face look deeper, her breath slower. Laura sat beside her, taking her fragile hand, trying to swallow the guilt tightening in her throat. She'd spent the last year juggling Michael's moods, the kids' needs, and the slow decline of the only parent she had left. And now, all at once, everything seemed to crumble. A nurse came in quietly. She had a moment of confusion earlier, the nurse explained. She kept asking for you. Laura nodded, brushing tears from her cheek. Thank you for calling me. Daniel stood by the door, giving her space but refusing to leave. She could feel his steady presence behind her, like a lighthouse standing firm in a violent storm. When her mother drifted back to sleep, Laura stepped into the hallway. Her legs felt weak, How much more can I handle in one night? She whispered. Daniel didn't hesitate. More than you think. But you won't do it alone. They walked toward a small family waiting room where Daniel opened his laptop again. There's something else in that folder you didn't see, he said. I didn't want to overwhelm you at home. Laura blinked. Something worse than the transfers? Worse than the photos? He pulled out a sealed envelope, the same one he had slipped behind the financial documents earlier but hadn't explained. This isn't from me, he said. It was mailed anonymously. Arrived yesterday. Laura hesitated, a sudden rush of dread running cold through her veins. Who sent it? Daniel shook his head. No return address. But based on the handwriting and the timestamps, I think someone close to Michael wanted you to know the truth. She stared at the envelope. Open it. Daniel peeled back the seal carefully and slid out several papers and a flash drive. He placed the papers in her hands. The first page was a transcript. A private call. A call between Michael and a board member from his company. Laura began to read, her eyes darting across the lines. Michael's voice filled her ears cold, dismissive, calculating. She's not my problem anymore, the transcript read. After I finalize the transfer, Laura won't have access to anything. She'll have to fend for herself. It's cleaner this way. Laura felt something shatter inside her. Not heartbreak, something deeper. A breaking of illusion. A severing of the last thread connecting her to the man she thought she married. She flipped to the next page. More words. More lies. More cruelty. She'll get whatever the lawyers force out of me, Michael said. I'm done pretending she matters. Laura pressed a hand to her mouth. He said that. He really said that. Daniel nodded solemnly. There's also the flash drive. With trembling fingers, Laura inserted it into the laptop. A video file appeared. She clicked it. The footage was grainy but clear enough, a recording from Michael's office. He sat across from Chloe, laughing with a self-satisfied tilt of his head. Chloe asked, "What if she finds out?" Michael smirked. "Laura? Please. She can't even see what's right in front of her." Laura sucked in a shaky breath, her heart thudding painfully against her ribs. But the video wasn't done. Michael leaned forward, lowering his voice. Besides, once the next transfer goes through tonight, it won't matter what she knows. She won't be able to touch a damn thing. Daniel closed the laptop softly, giving her a moment. Laura wiped her face, but the tears kept coming. This wasn't just betrayal, she whispered. He planned to ruin me. Daniel nodded. Yes. And now you understand why we needed to move fast. Laura inhaled deeply, forcing steadiness back into her voice. Then we fight. Daniel's expression shifted, part pride, part relief. Good. Because something else came in 20 minutes ago. A message from a source who claims to have more proof. Laura steadied herself. More proof? Daniel handed her his phone. Yes. And they want to meet you. Tonight. A cold shiver ran through her. Because the source wasn't just anyone, it was someone who claimed to know exactly what Michael was doing in Los Angeles at that very moment. Laura followed Daniel out of the hospital into the icy night, her breath visible in the glow of the parking lot lights. Snowflakes fell in heavy sheets now, coating the cars and muting every sound. She pulled her coat tighter, but the cold inside her chest had nothing to do with winter. It was the kind of cold that came from betrayal so deep it numbed the soul. Who wants to meet me? Laura asked, her voice low. Daniel unlocked his SUV. They didn't give a name, but they said they worked with Michael sometime this year, and they know exactly who he's with in Los Angeles. Laura felt her stomach twist. Chloe, Daniel didn't deny it. Let's get you home first. We'll figure out the next step from there. They climbed into the SUV, the heater blasting warm air as they pulled onto the snowy road. Laura stared out of the window, watching headlights blur into streaks of white. The world looked peaceful, quiet, nothing like the storm tearing through her life. She pressed a hand against her lips. Daniel, how long did you know something was wrong? Daniel kept his eyes on the road. Long enough to know he didn't deserve you, but not long enough to stop this from hurting you. Laura looked away, swallowing the lump rising in her throat. As they drove through the quiet neighborhoods, the story cut sharply to Los Angeles, another universe entirely. Inside the Ritz-Carlton suite, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Michael still held the Tiffany box in his hand, his brow furrowed. Chloe paced back and forth in her glittering dress, her phone buzzing every few seconds. Laura wiped her face, but the tears kept coming. "This wasn't just betrayal," she whispered. "He planned to ruin me." Daniel nodded. "Yes. And now you understand why we needed to move fast." Laura inhaled deeply, forcing steadiness back into her voice. "Then we fight." Daniel's expression shifted, part pride, part relief. "Good. Because something else came in 20 minutes ago. A message from a source who claims to have more proof." Laura steadied herself. "More proof?" Daniel handed her his phone. "Yes. And they want to meet you. Tonight." A cold shiver ran through her. Because the source wasn't just anyone, it was someone who claimed to know exactly what Michael was doing in Los Angeles at that very moment. Laura followed Daniel out of the hospital into the icy night, her breath visible in the glow of the parking lot lights. Snowflakes fell in heavy sheets now, coating the cars and muting every sound. "Can you turn off your notifications?" Michael snapped. "You're making me nervous." Chloe scoffed. "You're nervous because your wife sent you something, not because of my phone." Michael shot her a glare, but she didn't back down. Instead, she crossed her arms. "You know, I didn't sign up for this drama. I thought you said everything was under control." "It is," he said quickly. "Laura's not going to do anything." But he didn't sound confident, not even to himself. He answered sharply. "What is it?" Her voice trembled. "Mr. Bennett. The board received an anonymous tip tonight. They're investigating the transfer to Miss Reynolds." Michael froze. "What? Who sent it?" "We don't know. But the board wants a meeting. Tonight." Chloe's face drained of color. Michael cursed under his breath. "This is a setup. Someone's trying to ruin me." From behind him, Chloe whispered, "Michael, what if it's your wife?" He turned, fury rising like a flame. She wouldn't dare. But he didn't sound sure. Back in Westchester, Daniel pulled into Laura's driveway. Snow gathered thick along the roof, muffling every sound. Laura stared at her dark home, unaware that inside it, not far from the front door, someone had left an envelope she wasn't supposed to find. And the moment she stepped inside, she would discover it, along with a truth even darker than the one she already knew. "Can you turn off your notifications?" Michael snapped. "You're making me nervous." Chloe scoffed. "You're nervous because your wife sent you something, not because of my phone." Michael shot her a glare, but she didn't back down. Instead, she crossed her arms. "You know, I didn't sign up for this drama. I thought you said everything was under control." "It is," he said quickly. "Laura's not going to do anything." But he didn't sound confident, not even to himself. The house was dark when Laura and Daniel stepped inside, snow melting from their coats onto the hardwood floor. The silence felt heavier than usual, too still, too intentional. Laura turned on the lights, half expecting the weight of the night to collapse on her shoulders again. But something else caught her eye. An envelope lay on the entry table. Not from Daniel. Not from Michael. Not from the hospital. Just a plain white envelope with her name written in a shaky hand. Laura froze. He answered sharply. "What is it?" Her voice trembled. "Mr. Bennett. The board received an anonymous tip tonight. They're investigating the transfer to Miss Reynolds." Michael froze. "What? Who sent it?" "We don't know. But the board wants a meeting. Tonight." Chloe's face drained of color. Michael cursed under his breath. "This is a setup. Someone's trying to ruin me." From behind him, Chloe whispered, "Michael, what if it's your wife?" He turned, fury rising like a flame. She wouldn't dare. But he didn't sound sure. Back in Westchester, Daniel pulled into Laura's driveway. Snow gathered thick along the roof, muffling every sound. Laura stared at her dark home, unaware that inside it, not far from the front door, someone had left an envelope she wasn't supposed to find. And the moment she stepped inside, she would discover it, along with a truth even darker than the one she already knew. A single flash drive fell onto the coffee table. Laura stared at it. "Not again." Daniel sighed. "If someone wanted to hurt you, they'd send threats, not information. This is different. It's someone trying to show you the truth." He plugged the drive into his laptop. A single video file appeared. Laura hesitated. "Play it." Daniel clicked. At first, the screen was black. voices muffled. Then the image sharpened, a hallway camera grainy, time-stamped from 2 nights before. She thinks being a stay-at-home mom earns her something? Please. Laura's eyes burned with humiliation. Daniel clenched his jaw. He just incriminated himself. This is gold, legally speaking. But Laura couldn't think about legal battles. All she saw was the man she built a life with, gloating about tearing it apart. The video shifted, cutting to another clip. This time, Chloe was alone in the suite, pacing while holding her phone. "Yeah, I'm with him," she whispered to someone on the other end. "But listen, if this blows up, I'm not taking the fall. If the story drops, I want credit for the exclusive." A reporter's voice came faintly from the speaker. "We need hard proof." Chloe smirked. "Oh, trust me, I have receipts." Laura's stomach twisted. Chloe wasn't just the mistress. She was the leak, the source, the spark behind the scandal. The video ended abruptly. Silence. Laura felt her throat tighten as tears streamed down her face. Not soft, quiet tears like before. These were tears of devastation mixed with something fiercer, something awakening. Daniel closed the laptop and placed his hand lightly on hers. "Laura, this changes everything. This gives you full leverage." She shook her head slowly, wiping her cheeks. "No, Daniel. This proves something else." "What?" "That Michael was never planning to leave me." Her voice trembled, but there was steel beneath it. "He was planning to destroy me." Daniel nodded. "Then we don't give him the chance." Laura stood, suddenly steady, as if a decade of denial had finally cracked open, letting clarity pour in. But before she could speak again, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. "Michael. Calling. FaceTime." Daniel stiffened. "Do you want to answer?" Laura stared at the screen. "Yes," she whispered. "Put it on speaker." She pressed accept. Michael appeared disheveled, frantic, the hotel suite chaos behind him. "Laura," he shouted. "What the hell did you send me?" But he didn't know, not yet, that the gift she'd sent was nothing compared to what she was about to do next. And the next move would finally shift the power permanently. Michael's face filled the screen, flushed, frantic, and angrier than she had seen him in years. Laura felt her throat tighten as tears streamed down her face. Not soft, quiet tears like before. These were tears of devastation mixed with something fiercer, something awakening. Daniel closed the laptop and placed his hand lightly on hers. "Laura, this changes everything. This gives you full leverage." She shook her head slowly, wiping her cheeks. "No, Daniel. This proves something else." "What?" "That Michael was never planning to leave me." "Which part are you referring to, Michael? The album? The children's video? Or the legal packet?" Michael's jaw clenched. "You blindsided me. You ruined my night. Do you know what kind of position you've put me in?" Daniel, standing beside Laura, stepped slightly closer so he was in frame. "Actually, Michael, your own actions put you in this position." Michael's eyes widened with rage. "You. Stay out of this." Daniel's expression didn't shift. Not tonight. "Morin." Laura could feel Michael's fury growing, the way it always did when he realized he no longer had control. But this time, something inside her didn't tremble. Something had finally snapped free. Michael ran a hand through his hair. "What's your plan, Laura? Blackmail? Destroy my reputation? You think I won't fight back?" Laura inhaled slowly. "I didn't send you anything that wasn't true. That letter, those documents," he sputtered. "That was low, even for you." "High? For me?" she repeated softly. "I've covered for you for years. I've protected your image. I've held this family together while you built a life somewhere else. And now you dare talk to me about low." Michael paused, thrown by the steadiness in her tone. Laura continued. "What exactly upset you more, Michael? The pictures of your children, or the truth about your financial transfers?" He froze. Chloe stepped into view. "Michael, what is she talking about?" Michael rounded on her. "Not now." Chloe folded her arms tighter. "No, I think now is exactly the time." Laura watched them silently, heartbreak replaced by a cold clarity she had never known before. "Answer her," Laura said. "Tell her what you've been doing." Michael stabbed a finger at the screen. This is exactly the kind of emotional meltdown I knew you'd have. You've always been careful. Daniel interrupted, voice calm but razor sharp. This call is being recorded. Michael stiffened. Laura didn't blink. And the video? The one from your hallway camera? The one where you said I live in a pathetic bubble? Should I play that for Chloe now or later? Chloe's head snapped toward Michael. What video? Nothing, Michael snapped. Laura is bluffing. Laura held up the laptop, revealing the paused video of Chloe whispering into her phone. I have receipts. Chloe blanched instantly. No, she whispered. No, you weren't supposed to. Michael grabbed her arm. Did you record me? Chloe jerked away. You said you were leaving her. You said everything was under control. You lied to me too. The two of them erupted into an argument, shouting over each other, forgetting Laura entirely for a moment. Laura watched the scene with eerie detachment, as if she were watching the end of a movie she'd already predicted. Finally, Michael turned back to the phone. Face reddened, voice shaking with rage. You think you've won? You think this changes anything? Laura stepped forward, her voice soft, but cutting. No, Michael. I don't think I've won. I think the truth finally has. He opened his mouth to retaliate, but then another voice entered the conversation. A voice Laura recognized instantly. His assistant. She appeared behind him, framed in the doorway, eyes apologetic. Michael, the board is on an emergency call. They know about the transfers. They've seen the footage. Halwyn? Michael froze. What? She swallowed. They want you online in 5 minutes. Chloe stepped even farther back from him. Laura didn't say another word. She simply ended the call. Silence filled the room. Daniel turned to her. That was decisive. Laura exhaled slowly. No, that was necessary. But before she could sit down, her phone buzzed again, another message, from an unknown number. Daniel read her expression. What is it? Laura swallowed hard. She opened it. A single sentence appeared. If you speak to the board, everything Michael planned for you will be reversed. Followed by a second message. All you have to do is say yes. The drive to the hospital was quiet except for the steady thrum of snow under the tires. Laura stared straight ahead, her mind spinning through everything the board's request, the mysterious text, her mother's worsening condition, and worst of all, the truth about Michael's intentions. The timestamp, barely 20 minutes old, made her stomach twist. He had done it while yelling at her, while pretending she was irrational, while swearing nothing was wrong. Daniel leaned closer. He signed off company assets to Chloe. This is no longer just betrayal. This is fraud. Laura swallowed hard. Why would he risk everything for her? Daniel shook his head. Not for her. For himself. He wanted the money hidden before the board could audit him. Laura felt sick. It was one thing to be cheated on. It was another to realize her husband was willing to commit a federal crime just to erase her from his life. Snow continued to fall heavily outside the windows, muffling the world. Inside, the glow of Christmas lights flickered over the walls as if even the house sensed a reckoning was unfolding. Laura sank onto the couch, gripping her knees. She expected herself to cry, to scream, to fall apart. But she didn't. Instead, a strange calm settled over her, cold and clear, like the eye of a storm. Daniel lowered himself onto the coffee table across from her. Listen, if that document gets into the board's hands, Michael is finished. Do you think the person who sent it knows that? She asked quietly. I think they want him to be finished, Daniel said. Whoever sent this, they're not on his side anymore. Laura looked at the screenshot again. So someone close to him betrayed him. Or, Daniel said carefully, someone finally realized who he really is. Before Laura could respond, her phone buzzed violently, again this time, a FaceTime request from an unknown number. Daniel tensed. Don't answer that. But something in Laura wanted to know. Wanted to face this night fully. Wanted no more secrets. She pressed accept. The screen opened to a woman's face, Michael's assistant, Jenna. Her eyes were red, her mascara smudged, her hands trembling as she held the phone. Mrs. Bennett, she whispered, glancing nervously over her shoulder. I don't have much time. Laura leaned forward. Jenna, why are you calling me? Jenna swallowed hard. Because the board is preparing to remove Michael as CEO. They've seen the video. They've seen the transfer. And they're furious. He's trying to spin it, but... She lowered her voice. They don't believe him anymore. Laura's breath hitched. He's blaming me, isn't he? Jenna nodded. He said you're manipulating him. That you set him up. Daniel scoffed bitterly. Classic. But the board, Jenna continued. They found something else. Laura's pulse quickened. What? Jenna took a shaky breath. A recording. A long one. It's Michael. Talking about you. About the kids. About his money. And about his plan. To make sure you left with nothing. Laura felt her stomach drop. Jenna looked around again, terrified. They're reviewing it now. If they release it internally, Michael's career is done. Permanently. Laura felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Shock. Vindication. Sadness. And a deep, painful understanding that the man she married was gone long before tonight. Jenna whispered, Mrs. Bennett, you deserved better. That's why I sent you the screenshot. It's why I sent the first envelope. She looked down, ashamed. I covered for him for years. I can't do it anymore. Laura blinked, stunned. You were the source? Jenna nodded. Before Laura could speak, a sudden banging noise echoed from Jenna's end of the call. She flinched violently. Then Michael's furious voice thundered from somewhere behind her. Jenna, who the hell are you talking to? The screen jolted. The camera swung. Michael appeared, furious, breathing hard, eyes blazing. Laura, he growled, pointing at the camera. You're going to regret this, all of it. Laura didn't blink. No, Michael. For the first time, I'm not the one who should be afraid. Before he could respond, security stormed into the switchboard-appointed personnel. Michael whipped around, shouting, You can't do this. I built this company. But his voice was drowned out by the chaos. The screen went black. Laura lowered the phone slowly, the weight of what she had witnessed settling over her like falling snow. Daniel exhaled. That's it, that's the collapse. But Laura didn't feel triumph. Not yet. She looked at the quiet house, the tree, the stockings. I didn't want to destroy him, she whispered. Daniel placed a steady hand on her shoulder. You didn't. He destroyed himself. Just then, another alert chimed on her phone, a message from the board's legal department. And when Laura opened it, her breath caught in her throat. They wanted to meet with her. Tonight. The message from the board's legal department blinked on Laura's screen like a warning she wasn't ready to face. She read it twice, her breath catching each time. Mrs. Bennett, we request a confidential meeting regarding urgent matters affecting the Bennett family and Bennett Innovations. She lowered the phone slowly. Daniel watched her carefully. The Christmas tree lights blinked softly behind them, an almost cruel reminder of the holiday they were supposed to be having. They want to talk to you, Daniel said. Not Michael. Laura exhaled shakily. Why me? I'm not part of his company. Bye. You were used in his marketing, Daniel reminded her. The Family Man brand. The perfect holiday campaigns. All those photo shoots he forced you into. He paused. You didn't agree to be part of his fraud. Laura closed her eyes. She remembered the staged branding videos, the candid moments he choreographed, the way he positioned her beside the fireplace, the way he demanded the kids smile even when they were exhausted. I thought it was harmless, she whispered. Daniel shook his head. It never was. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Then another. When she glanced at the notifications, her stomach tightened. It was from the hospital. Her mother's condition had worsened overnight. Laura pressed a hand over her chest. No, not now. Daniel stepped closer. We'll go right away. But the messages kept coming not just from the hospital, but from unknown numbers. Calls. Missed calls. Voicemails. Daniel gently took the phone from her and quickly scrolled. Spam reporters blocked numbers. These are leaks starting to spread. Laura felt dizzy. Already? Daniel nodded grimly. Someone inside that hotel tipped them off. And once one outlet gets wind of a CEO meltdown on Christmas Eve, they all want a piece. Laura sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. For the first time all night, she felt truly overwhelmed. Not by Michael, not by the betrayal, but by the sheer avalanche of consequences crashing down all at once. Daniel, everything is falling apart. Daniel knelt in front of her, placing a steady hand on her arm. No, Laura. Everything is finally falling into place. He controlled the narrative for years. Tonight, it slipped out of his hands. Laura shook her head. But the kids, my mom, how am I supposed to do this alone? You're not alone, Daniel said, voice low but firm. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Holly. His sincerity almost broke her, but she wasn't ready to lean on him. Not yet. There was too much to untangle inside her heart, too many wounds still raw. She stood abruptly. I need to see my mom. Daniel nodded. I'll warm up the car. As he stepped outside, Laura walked upstairs to check on the children. Aiden was sprawled across his bed, clutching a blanket. Lily slept curled around her stuffed polar bear, her tiny breaths soft and steady. Laura's chest tightened with love and fear. She brushed a strand of hair off Lily's cheek. I promise I'm going to protect you, she whispered. Downstairs, Daniel called up. Laura, we should leave now. She grabbed her coat and froze. There was a new email notification. From the board's legal department. Subject line. Regarding your role in Michael Bennett's public image. Her throat tightened. Inside was a contract for her to review. A contract requesting her cooperation as they prepared to distance the company from Michael for ethical reasons. Daniel returned to the doorway. What is it? Laura turned the screen toward him. His eyes widened. They want your statement, Laura. They want you to help take him down. Her heart pounded. I didn't ask for this. No, Daniel said softly. But life is giving it to you anyway. Before she could respond, another message pinged, this time from an unknown number. Holly. His sincerity almost broke her, but she wasn't ready to lean on him. Not yet. There was too much to untangle inside her heart, too many wounds still raw. She stood abruptly. I need to see my mom. Daniel nodded. I'll warm up the car. As he stepped outside, Laura walked upstairs to check on the children. Aiden was sprawled across his bed, clutching a blanket. Lily slept curled around her stuffed polar bear, her tiny breaths soft and steady. Laura's chest tightened with love and fear. Daniel drove with careful focus, glancing over only when her breathing hitched or her hands tightened around the seatbelt. You don't have to decide anything right now, he said softly. But Laura didn't respond. She couldn't. There were too many voices battling inside her head. When they arrived at the hospital, the halls were dim, staff moving silently like ghosts. Laura hurried toward her mother's room with Daniel behind her. The nurse met her at the door. It's a screenshot, she whispered, of Michael signing something. Tonight. Daniel leaned in, and when he saw it, his eyes widened. Michael hadn't only transferred money, he had just illegally assigned company assets to Chloe, moments before the board discovered everything. Laura stared at the screenshot glowing on her phone. Michael's signature at the bottom of a document labeled Asset Transfer Authorization. His handwriting was unmistakable. She sat down beside the bed, holding her mother's hand. Daniel lingered by the doorway, giving her space. Mom, Laura whispered. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner. Her mother's eyelids fluttered. She opened her eyes just enough to see her daughter. Laurie? Her voice was paper-thin. It's Christmas already? Laura nodded. Almost. Her mother's brows furrowed, as if she sensed something deeper than the hour. You sound tired. Laura laughed softly, blinking back tears. It's been a hard night. Her mother's fingers curled weakly around hers. Don't let him hurt you anymore. Laura froze. She hadn't said a word about Michael. Not tonight. Not ever, really not to her mother. Mom, what do you mean? Her mother looked past her, eyes misty with confusion and lucidity tangled together. Your heart's been crying for a long time, even when your voice didn't. Laura pressed her forehead to the back of her mother's hand as tears finally spilled over. This wasn't a legal document, or evidence, or a contract. This was truth, spoken by someone who'd known her since the moment she took her first breath. A truth she couldn't ignore anymore. After a few minutes, her mother drifted back to sleep. Laura stepped out into the hallway, wiping her face. Daniel watched her, concern etched in his features. She knew, Laura whispered. She always knew. Daniel nodded, his voice low. People who love you deeply usually do. Laura took a shaky breath. I have to meet the board. I'll drive you, Daniel said instantly. No, not yet. She shook her head. I need to go home first. I want to check on the kids. And I need to be in my own space before I face what comes next. Daniel hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. On the drive back, snow fell heavier, blurring the night into patches of white and dark. Laura's phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. Daniel tensed. Do you want me to look? No, Laura said firmly, gripping the phone. This one, I need to see myself. She opened it. A photo filled the screen. Michael, at an airport lounge. Suitcase open. Chloe beside him, crying. And security officers talking to him. The caption underneath read, he's trying to board a private flight back to New York. The board ordered him to stay put. He's ignoring them. Laura exhaled shakily. He's coming home. Daniel slowed the car. Then we prepare. Because he won't come quietly. Laura looked out the window, the world blurring past. A new calm washed over her, not the shock-filled numbness from earlier, but a steady resolve. This time, she said, her voice surprisingly steady, I won't run from him. They pulled into her driveway. The house sat silent under the blanket of snow. She knew the next few hours would change everything. Her children's future, her security, her past, and whatever came next. She stepped out of the car, because the first confrontation wasn't coming tomorrow. Or next week, Michael was on his way home, and he was coming tonight. Snow still fell thick across the neighborhood when Daniel pulled quietly into Laura's driveway. The house was dark, except for the warm glow of the tree reflecting through the living room window. It looked peaceful, lovely, but Laura felt none of that peace inside her chest. She could sense the confrontation coming like thunder rolling before a storm. Text me the moment you need me, Daniel said as he walked her to the front door. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. Laura nodded. Thank you for everything tonight. He held her gaze. Tonight isn't over. She knew he was right. Inside, the house felt colder than before. She checked on the kids, Aiden snoring softly, Lily curled under her blanket, and when she was sure they were safe, she went downstairs. She turned on the fireplace, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and sat at the dining table. Her phone vibrated again, shaking across the wood surface. Unknown number. Ita 1 hour. We need to talk. It was Michael. Not calling this time. Commanding. Laura stared at the message, feeling the familiar pit in her stomach, the one that always formed before Michael launched into one of his tirades. How many nights had she feared his anger? How many days had she walked on eggshells? Not tonight. She typed nothing back. Instead, she opened the email from the board again and reread the contract requesting her cooperation in the investigation. The words were clear. They needed her statement to protect the company and distance themselves from Michael's behavior. If she agreed, she would receive legal protection, and so would her children. She wasn't thinking of revenge. She was thinking of safety. A sound outside made her lift her head. A car door shut. Too early for Michael. Too early for anyone. She stood slowly, pulling the blanket off her shoulders, and moved toward the window. Daniel's SUV was gone. Her driveway was empty, except for her own car. A shadow moved behind the hedges. Laura's breath caught. Then knocking. Hard. Urgent. Not the knock of a neighbor. Not the knock of someone cautious in a snowstorm. She stepped back. Before she could react, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Open the door. Her pulse quickened. Was he here already? Had he taken another flight? Had he lied about being held by security? But when she looked through the peephole, it wasn't Michael. It was Jenna, Michael's assistant. Her mascara was smudged, her coat dusted in snow, and she looked terrified. Laura hesitated, then cracked the door open. Jenna? What are you doing here? Jenna stepped inside quickly, shutting the door behind her. I didn't know where else to go. He went ballistic after the board called him. He's blaming me for everything. I think he knows I leaked the recording. Laura stared at her. Are you in danger? Jenna nodded, eyes glassy. He threw his phone against the wall. He tried to grab mine. Security stopped him, but once they let him go, he ran. I don't know how he got past them. But he's coming here, Laura. He kept saying he was going to fix this himself. Laura's stomach dropped. Fix this? What does that mean? Jenna shook her head. I don't know. But he's unstable. Before Laura could speak, headlights swept across the living room wall, slow, deliberate, turning into the driveway. Jenna's face went pale. That's him. Laura felt her heart slam against her ribs. The children were asleep upstairs. Jenna was trembling beside her, and Michael, furious, desperate, cornered, was seconds away from walking inside. The engine cut off. Footsteps crunched through the snow. Laura grabbed her phone. Daniel, he answered instantly. I'm already on my way back. Please hurry, she whispered. The doorknob rattled. Once, twice. Then Michael's voice, low and icy, seeped through the wood. Laura, open the door. Jenna backed up quickly, shaking. Don't let him in. Laura didn't move. She didn't breathe. Michael's voice rose, sharper. We're talking tonight, whether you like it or not. Laura stepped forward, not to open the door, but to stand between Michael and the staircase leading to her sleeping children. Her voice was soft, trembling but not afraid. No, Michael, she whispered. Not this time. And on the other side of the door, Michael fell silent, as if realizing for the first time that Laura was no longer the woman he could control. Michael's silence on the other side of the door was somehow more terrifying than his shouting. Laura stood frozen in the dim light of the hallway, hearing nothing but the hum of the heater and Jenna's shaky breathing behind her. Then, another voice cut through the winter air. Not Michael's. Chloe. Michael, stop. This is insane. Laura's eyes widened. She hadn't expected Chloe to be here. Not after everything. Not after the board confrontation. Not after the airport chaos. Footsteps shuffled. A small scuffle. Then Chloe's voice again, frantic. Michael, you can't force your way in. You're already in trouble. Don't make it worse. Laura exchanged a startled glance with Jenna, who whispered, he must have dragged her with him. God, he's spiraling. Outside, Michael snarled, you shut up. This is your fault too. Then bang, bang, bang. The door shook under his fist. Laura, open this damn door. Jenna grabbed Laura's arm. We should call the police. See? Laura dialed instantly, but Michael's voice boomed again, drowning her out. You think you can embarrass me? You think you can ruin my name? Everything you've seen tonight, I can explain all of it. He sounded desperate. More desperate than she had ever heard him. And desperation was dangerous. Laura backed away from the door. He's not coming inside. Not with the kids here. Meanwhile, outside, Chloe wasn't holding up as well. Michael, you need to calm down, she pleaded. They're already talking about firing you. You're making it worse. Shut up, he snapped again. You recorded me, you betrayed me first. Chloe flinched, her breath frosting in the cold. I panicked. The reporter said he needed proof. Laura felt sick. She remembered the video of Chloe whispering, I have receipts. She'd thought Chloe was cold, calculating. She hadn't expected fear. Real fear. Michael slammed his palm against the door again. I know you're in there, Laura. We're fixing this now. Open it. Jenna's voice trembled. He's losing it. This is exactly what the board feared. Laura swallowed hard. The police will be here any minute. But before they could process what to do next, Chloe suddenly raised her voice loud, panicked, cracking under the pressure. You think she's your problem right now? Chloe shouted at Michael. You idiot, the board has everything. They saw the video. They know about the transfers. You're finished. Public. Michael rounded on her. You little dot. Don't touch me. Chloe screamed. Her cry echoed across the silent street. Laura's breath caught. This wasn't the confident, smirking woman from the hotel suite. This was someone terrified for her safety. Michael hissed, You ruined everything. No, Chloe shot back, her voice trembling. You ruined everything when you thought you could juggle a wife, a mistress, a company, and a fraud scheme. And now everybody knows the truth. Laura and Jenna stood frozen, listening. Chloe continued, voice breaking. I didn't mean for this to explode. I didn't mean. I just wanted the story out before you left me the moment your divorce was final. Laura blinked. She thought he'd leave her too. The realization hit her. Chloe wasn't the villain she'd imagined. She was another casualty of Michael's lies. Michael's tone shifted cold, venomous. Do you really think I would ever choose you over my company? Over my reputation? You were temporary, Chloe. A phase. A sob burst from Chloe. You promised me. I lied. The words froze everyone them outside, Laura inside. Chloe's sob softened into something darker. Bitter. You know what? I hope they fire you. I hope they drag your name through every news station in America. I hope you lose everything. Michael lunged toward her, but headlights flashed across the driveway. A car stopping abruptly. Snow spraying. Daniel. He jumped out before the engine fully stopped, shouting, Michael, step away from her. Michael spun around, wild-eyed. You. Daniel didn't let him finish. He stepped between Chloe and Michael. Posture steady, protective. You're done, Michael. Go home, or the police will take you there. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Getting closer. Chloe collapsed against the hood of Daniel's car, sobbing uncontrollably. Laura watched through the window, heart pounding, realizing the truth. This wasn't just a confrontation. This wasn't just fallout. This was Michael's life falling apart in real time. And she hadn't lifted a finger to push it. The truth had done that all on its own. But the night wasn't over even as the sirens closed in. Michael lifted his head, eyes locked on Laura's window, and whispered something she couldn't hear but felt in her bones. Michael's lips moved silently as he stared through the window, snow swirling around him like a storm trapped inside his own rage. Laura couldn't hear the words, but she saw the shape of them, ugly, venomous. Words he had spat behind closed doors for years, words he never expected her to stand against. Daniel took one step forward, blocking Michael's view. That's enough, he said firmly. Back away. Right now. Michael's hands curled into fists. You think you can protect her from me? Daniel's voice didn't budge. Yes, I do. The sirens grew louder, bouncing off the snow-covered street. Chloe sobbed behind Daniel, her sequin dress shivering with every breath as the cold sank into her bones. Inside the house, Jenna paced anxiously near the staircase. Laura, he's going to get himself arrested tonight. He's not thinking straight. Laura swallowed. He hasn't thought straight in a long time. Her voice was steady, colder than she expected. She felt something inside her shift click into place. This wasn't fear anymore. It wasn't shock. It wasn't grief. It was resolve. She stepped closer to the front door, placing a hand on it. For a moment, she allowed herself to remember the early years, Michael surprising her with cheap flowers, whispering promises of a future they would build together. But those memories didn't hurt her anymore. They felt like stories she had read in someone else's life. Outside, Michael ranted louder. Laura, you owe me a conversation. You owe me the chance to explain. Daniel glared at him. She owes you nothing. Michael ignored him. Laura, open this door. Laura inhaled sharply and unlocked it. The click echoed through the silent room. Jenna gasped. Laura, no. Laura opened the door just enough to step into the frame, the cold slapping her cheeks instantly. Snowflakes settled on her eyelashes, melting against the heat of her steady gaze. Michael's expression flickered with surprise. Maybe he expected tears. Maybe he expected her voice to crack. Maybe he expected the same woman who had always folded under his anger. Instead, he saw someone he didn't recognize. Michael, she said softly, go home. He blinked, thrown off, the fury on his face cracking with confusion. Laura, listen. Everything you heard, it wasn't what it looked like. Chloe twisted things. Daniel twisted things. You're being manipulated. Chloe let out a bitter laugh, still huddled beside Daniel. Manipulated? Michael, you manipulated everyone. Michael whirled on her. Stay out of this. No, Laura said sharply. Michael stopped. The word carried authority he wasn't used to hearing from her. No, Michael, she repeated. She won't stay out of it. None of this is isolated. None of it is a misunderstanding. Your lies connected all of us. Your choices hurt all of us. He opened his mouth, but she raised her palm. I'm speaking. You can listen. Daniel's jaw tightened with pride. Chloe looked stunned. Jenna peeked from the doorway, eyes wide. You spent years telling me I was overreacting. Telling me I was too sensitive, too emotional, too Everything. She steadied her breath. But I see clearly now. You weren't protecting me. You were slowly erasing me. Michael's face hardened. And it's over. Laura continued. You don't get to control me. Not anymore. The police cars finally pulled up behind Daniel's SUV, lights flashing across the snow. Officers stepped out, hands on their belts, assessing the scene. Michael suddenly panicked. Laura, don't do this. I'm your husband. I'm the father of your children. You're the man who tried to take everything from me, she said calmly. And from them. Michael's desperation turned frantic. We can fix this. No, she cut in. I will fix this, without you. 2 officers approached. Sir, we need you to step back. Now. Michael looked from the officers, to Daniel, to Chloe, to Jenna, and finally back at Laura. He saw it. The finality. The strength he never believed she had. The end of his control. His voice cracked. Laura, please. Her eyes softened, but only with truth, not forgiveness. Go home, Michael. Tears welled in his eyes. Not remorse, but fear. As the officers moved in, Chloe quietly whispered, It's over, Michael. Really over. Laura stepped back inside, closing the door gently behind her. And for the first time in years, she felt safe. Not because Michael was gone, but because she finally wasn't afraid anymore. Morning light crept into the Bennett house, as if unsure it was welcome. Snow blanketed the driveway, untouched since the chaos of the night before. Laura had managed only 2 hours of sleep-light, restless sleep, but when she opened her eyes, something felt different. She felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but unburdened. Downstairs, Jenna sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee Daniel had brought her at dawn. She looked exhausted, ashamed, and terrified all at once. Daniel stood near the counter, typing furiously on his MacBook Pro, documents and legal notes covering the counter like a battlefield map. Laura walked in quietly. You should have slept, Daniel said gently. I slept enough, she replied. Jenna looked up, guilt clouding her expression. Mrs. Bennett. I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to war for and. Stop, Laura said softly. Jenna, I'm not angry at you. Jenna blinked in surprise. You're not? No. You didn't break our marriage. Laura breathed deeply. Michael did that a long time ago. Jenna's shoulders crumpled with relief, and she wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Before they could say more, Daniel's phone buzzed sharply. He looked down and froze. What? Laura asked. Daniel turned the screen toward her. A news alert. Front page. Already viral. CEO, Michael Bennett, under investigation for fraud, personal misconduct, and corporate ethics violations. 6. Laura's stomach twisted, not with fear, but with the weight of inevitability. The truth was out public, undeniable, irreversible. Jenna covered her mouth. Oh my God, it's already everywhere. Daniel began scrolling. Internal leak last night. Not from us. The board must have confirmed everything and acted fast. Laura sank into a chair. What are they saying about me? Daniel scanned the article. Surprisingly, nothing bad. They're framing you as the uninvolved spouse, and they're calling you a key witness. Laura's breath hitched. She never wanted her life in the news. Never wanted strangers dissecting her marriage. Never wanted her children's father displayed like a scandal headline. But this wasn't about what she wanted anymore. Daniel, she whispered. Do I have to give a public statement? Not yet, he replied. But the board still wants to meet. They'll want confirmation of everything before Michael tries to spin it. Jenna wiped another tear. He's going to try. He was already crafting excuses when I left the hotel. Laura stared at the table. What did he say? Jenna hesitated. That you were unstable, emotional. That this was a domestic misunderstanding, exaggerated by outsiders. Daniel scoffed. Predictable. His only defense is to blame the victim. Laura didn't flinch, not anymore. At that moment, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. A video, sent anonymously. She clicked play. It was footage of Michael in the airport lounge, pacing frantically, arguing loudly with someone on the phone. She turned up the volume. I don't care what PR says. My wife is exaggerating, she always is. I'm not letting her take my company from me. I'll fix this myself. She owes me everything. Laura shut off the video mid-sentence, her jaw tightening. Daniel's gaze sharpened. That video is gold. If the board sees it, they already have, Jenna whispered. They sent investigators to his house this morning. If he lies again, they'll bury him. Silence filled the kitchen. Then Laura stood. Slowly, purposefully. I'll meet the board, she said. But I'll do it on my terms. I will not be dragged into his mess. I will tell the truth. And I will protect my children. Daniel nodded, admiration softening his eyes. I'll drive you, and I'll be beside you the entire time. Before they left, Laura checked on the kids again, still sleeping, faces peaceful and untouched by the chaos outside their door. She tucked their blankets around them gently. She whispered, Mommy's going to fix everything. Back downstairs, Daniel and Jenna waited near the door. Outside, the world was bright, cold, and full of consequences. Laura put on her coat, lifted her chin, and stepped outside. Because today wasn't about fear or survival anymore. Today was the day she walked into the world, not as Michael Bennett's wife, but as herself. The Manhattan skyline rose like a wall of cold silver as Daniel guided the SUV toward Park Avenue. It should have been a beautiful drive, the winter sun hitting the glass buildings, the soft blanket of snow muffling the traffic, but for Laura, everything felt suspended. Quiet, heavy, almost unreal. Daniel glanced at her from the driver's seat. You okay? She nodded, though her fingers twisted together in her lap. I'm ready. She wasn't sure if it was true, but she said it anyway. Because today, there was no room left for fear. They pulled up to the towering office building where Bennett Innovations held its executive headquarters. A security team waited at the entrance, along with a woman in a charcoal gray suit holding a clipboard. Mrs. Bennett? Mr. Cooper? She asked as they approached. Daniel nodded. Yes. Follow me. The board is expecting you. They were escorted into a private elevator. Then up to the 42nd floor Laura had visited only twice before, both times for staged holiday photos meant to brand Michael as the wholesome CEO with a perfect family. Now she walked the same hallway for a very different reason. The boardroom doors opened, revealing a long glass table, city views stretching behind the executives like a judgmental backdrop. 8 board members sat in stiff silence, their faces grave. A few folders lay open in front of them. Laura recognized the documents Daniel had sent earlier, the screenshots, and even stills from the videos. The chairwoman, an older woman with sharp eyes, stood. Mrs. Bennett, thank you for coming on such short notice. Laura nodded, hands clasped together. I understand the urgency. Bye. Daniel took a seat beside her, placing a reassuring hand on the table, not touching hers, but close enough to remind her she wasn't alone. The chairwoman began. We want you to know that you are not under investigation. You are not responsible for your husband's actions. But your cooperation is crucial for clarity. I'll answer anything you need, Laura said softly. One man leaned forward. Mrs. Bennett, do you believe your husband knowingly moved company assets to a private account? Yes. A ripple of tension passed through the room. Another board member asked, were you aware he used your family image for corporate campaigns while engaging in misconduct? Laura swallowed. I didn't know he was using my image illegally. I thought I was supporting his career. I trusted him. Someone else softened. You've been through a lot. Oh. But another chimed in sharply. Do you have reason to believe he intends to blame you to save himself? Yes, she said. He already has. Then Daniel leaned forward, sliding a folder across the table. We have additional evidence. Inside were transcripts, the airport rant, the secret recording Jenna had leaked, and the asset transfer screenshot time-stamped the same night Michael attempted to intimidate Laura. The board members spent several minutes reviewing the documents. Some whispered. Some shook their heads in disgust. Finally, the chairwoman closed the folder. This is enough, she said. Michael Bennett violated corporate law, fiduciary duty, and ethical guidelines. We are removing him effective immediately. Laura exhaled shakily, almost unable to believe it. We will issue the statement in an hour, another board member added. But we need one more thing from you, Mrs. Bennett. Her pulse quickened. What is it? A public confirmation, the chairwoman said. A simple one. You will not be dragged into the scandal. You will not be placed on camera. But to protect the company and your children, we need your signature stating you were unaware of his illegal activities. Daniel whispered, "This is good. It protects you." Laura nodded. "I'll sign." As she reached for the pen, one more question emerged from the end of the table. "Mrs. Bennett, did your husband ever hurt you, emotionally or financially?" Laura paused. Her hand hovered. Her heart thudded. She didn't cry, didn't tremble. She simply answered the truth. "Yes, he did." Daniel's eyes softened with pride and something else, something deeper, but he said nothing. The chairwoman nodded solemnly. "That'll be enough." Laura signed, and with that stroke of ink, Michael's position, his power, and the image he had spent years constructing all collapsed officially, legally, and irrevocably. As they stood to leave, Daniel placed a hand lightly at the small of her back, guiding her out. "You did it," he said quietly. Laura shook her head. "No. The truth did." But just as they stepped into the elevator, her phone buzzed another message. She opened it. A photo. Michael, sitting alone in his penthouse, head in his hands, everything gone, and a single line beneath it. He finally understands what he lost. Snow dusted the Manhattan sidewalks like powdered sugar as Laura stepped out of the board building with Daniel at her side. The cold air hit her face. But instead of shivering, she let out a long, steady exhale as if she had been holding her breath for years. It was over. Not the pain, not the healing, but the battle. Daniel opened the SUV door for her. "Home?" "Home," she said quietly. The city passed by in blurs of gray, silver, and holiday lights. But for the first time, Laura actually saw it, really saw it. She wasn't navigating the world as Michael Bennett's shadow anymore. She wasn't carrying the weight of his secrets. She wasn't shrinking to fit the life he had forced her into. She was stepping out of it. When they reached her townhouse, the snow had piled into soft drifts against the steps. The house looked peaceful again, still glowing from the Christmas lights. The kids insisted they keep on all night. Inside, the children were just waking up. Aiden rubbed his sleepy eyes. "Mom?" Lily stumbled out of her room, clutching her stuffed polar bear. "Mommy, you're home." Laura knelt, hugging them both tightly. Their warmth, their innocence, it grounded her instantly. Aiden pulled back and searched her face. "Did Dad call?" he asked. Laura shook her head gently. "No, sweetie, not this morning." Lily's lower lip quivered. "Is he mad?" Laura cupped her daughter's cheek. "No, honey. He's figuring things out. But you two didn't do anything wrong." Daniel lingered quietly in the doorway, giving the family space. After breakfast, small, simple, warm. Laura sat on the couch, sipping coffee while the kids played with blocks on the rug. Daniel stood near the window, watching the snowfall. "You did well today," he said softly. Laura set her mug down. "I didn't think I could do it." Daniel turned, giving her a gentle smile. "You didn't think you could survive what he did either. But you did." She looked at him for a long moment. The man who had stepped up when Michael ran away. The man who had stayed steady when her world collapsed. The man who had known the truth even before she was ready to face it. Before she could speak, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Again, she braced herself. But when she opened it, she froze. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't Michael. It wasn't the board. It was a clip. Footage shot from the alley behind Michael's penthouse. Security camera angle. Time stamped 30 minutes ago. Michael stumbled out into the cold, barefoot, clutching at the railing as if the ground were tilting beneath him. His hair was wild. His eyes hollow. For the first time, Laura saw him not as the powerful CEO who had dominated every room, but as a man stripped of everything he built from lies. He collapsed to his knees in the snow. A second message followed. "He wanted you to see, maybe for the first time, he's facing the truth." Laura's chest tightened, not with pity, but with clarity. "I don't wish him harm," she whispered. Daniel stepped closer. "That's why you're not like him." A knock sounded at the door. The kids looked up. Laura rose slowly and opened it. It was Chloe, hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing an oversized coat like armor. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but her voice was steady. I wanted to apologize, Chloe said. Not for everything I know that doesn't fix anything. But for my part. For hurting you. For being blind. For letting him use both of us. Laura exhaled. You didn't destroy my family, Chloe. He did. Tears filled Chloe's eyes. Still, I'm sorry. Laura nodded. Thank you. Juan? Chloe took a shaky breath. He'll need help. Not from me. And maybe not from you. But someone. Laura looked past Chloe at the snow-covered street. He'll have to choose to help himself, she said gently. That's something he's never done. Chloe nodded, stepped back, and left without another word. Inside, Laura returned to the living room. The kids were building a crooked snowman out of cushions. Daniel was watching her soft, proud, relieved. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Laura smiled. Because Christmas had finally come, not the one she had planned, but the one where she finally got her life back. Night settled softly over Westchester, the world outside blanketed in a peaceful white that felt almost symbolic, like the universe had decided to wipe the slate clean. Inside the house, warmth glowed from every corner. The fireplace crackled, the tree shimmered. The kids laughed upstairs, building forts out of blankets and pillows. Laura stood in the kitchen stirring hot chocolate, the scent of cocoa filling the air. It was quiet. Calm. A kind of calm she hadn't felt in years, steady, gentle, undeserved in her mind, yet deeply needed. Daniel leaned against the counter, watching her with the kind of quiet admiration that didn't demand anything in return. You're different today, he said softly. Laura smiled, handing him a mug. Maybe I finally let go. He took a sip. You didn't just let go. You rebuilt yourself. Laura didn't respond at first. She looked out the window, the sky, a deep navy blue, the snow sparkling beneath streetlights. I used to think strength meant enduring. Staying. Holding everything together even when it hurt. She took a slow breath. Now I know strength is choosing yourself, even when it means walking away. Daniel nodded. And you did. Send. A soft thump came from the stairs. Aiden and Lily peeking around the corner, bundled in pajamas, curiosity shining in their eyes. Mom? Aiden asked. Are you okay now? Laura knelt, pulling them close. I'm better than okay. I'm free. Lily pressed her cheek into Laura's shoulder. Are we still doing Christmas, even if Dad's not here? Laura kissed the top of her head. Of course we are. Christmas doesn't disappear just because someone else walked away from it. Daniel smiled warmly. Let's make it a good one. They spent the next hour baking cookies, decorating the tree again, this time with messy clusters of ornaments the kids insisted belonged together. Daniel helped them hang the star. Laura watched, heart full in a way she hadn't expected. Healing didn't feel loud. It felt like this quiet moments layered gently on top of broken ones. Later, when the kids ran upstairs to play, Laura and Daniel stepped out onto the porch. Snowflakes drifted down, soft as whispers. The neighborhood was still, the only sound the crunch of ice beneath their boots. Daniel glanced at her. You know, you don't have to go through the next part alone. The legal process, the custody hearing, the rebuilding. I know, Laura said. Then softly, and I don't want to. His eyes warmed. Not possessive, not demanding, just steady. I'll be here, if you want me. She met his gaze. I do. But before anything more could be said, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated, already guessing who it was. She pulled it out slowly. A single text. From Michael. I'm getting help. Tell the kids I'm sorry. I know I can't fix what I broke, but I'm finally facing it. Laura let out a slow breath. Not sad, not relieved, just accepting. Daniel watched her. You okay? She nodded. Yeah. I think. For the first time, he's telling the truth. She typed a simple reply. Get better. For yourself. The kids deserve the best version of you. Ren? She put the phone away and stepped closer to Daniel, the snow falling around them like a quiet blessing. Inside the house, the kids' laughter echoed through the windows. The world no longer felt heavy. No longer dangerous. No longer dictated by fear or manipulation. Laura inhaled the crisp winter air and whispered, almost to herself, this is the Christmas that counts. Daniel reached for her hand. And this time, She didn't pull away. Because she finally understood. Christmas wasn't about the man who left. It was about the life she saved. And the love she finally allowed in. And just like that, our story comes to an end. But you, yes, you, the wonderful friend still here with us right now. If you're hearing these last words, it means something in this journey touched your heart. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength, or of the moments you stayed quiet just to keep the peace. Life does that to us. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Laura's story is a reminder that healing doesn't happen in grand moments. It happens in small choices, choosing yourself, choosing peace, choosing truth even when it hurts. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is finally let go of what breaks us. And sometimes life surprises us with people who show up when we least expect it. So, if this story stayed with you, let it also lift you. Let it be proof that endings can be beginnings, and that your worth is never tied to someone else's ability to see it. If this touched you, my friend, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs strength tonight, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Your support helps these messages reach more hearts, just like yours.